Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action, to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Regina Mashira. Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Regina Mashira. Today is normally a release day for Light It Up podcast at 7 a.m., but as you can see and hear, it is well beyond 7 a.m. when you've received that notification of a new episode. To be completely honest, there for a moment today, I considered skipping this week because I was stuck in Philadelphia. The record-breaking snowstorm across the East Coast, flights canceled, airports shut down, travel plans disrupted. And if you know me, you know I don't sit still at all. Well, when there's a way to figure it out. So I was already researching trains, alternate flights, different airports, anything to get home. And then I received a couple of messages. One of those messages said, enjoy the evening, be at peace, and continue to enjoy every day of this gift of life from God. Laugh a lot, safe travels tomorrow. Then my mom, who was stuck right along with me, she sent a text, and her text said, you may want to stay put and not try to get on a train. I am so sorry that the weather is affecting our travel. Be patient with yourself. It's best to stay safe and in a hotel. And then my children, they sent a message in our family thread and they said something that shifted everything. They said, well, at least you're with your mommy and your brother. And I paused because what I saw as delay, they saw as a gift. What I saw as inconvenience, they saw as time. Time with my mother, time with my brother, time I didn't plan. And as I sat there in that hotel room with nowhere to rush to, I started reflecting on the week before because just days earlier, I had participated in a leadership panel. And in the stillness of the snow delay, everything began to connect in that moment. Last Thursday, before the snowstorm, I participated in a Black Women in Leadership panel. And there were several students in the room. And amongst those students, there were also some folks, some students who were carrying something heavy. I mean, you could just tell, you could feel it. And one student asked a question about mental health. And in that moment, I chose transparency because sometimes we talk about strength in a way that sounds polished, but not honest. I started to share with the folks in the room. I shared that I've sought counseling at different phases of my life, not once, um, not only in crisis, but as a practice of support. I sought counseling while I was in law school and preparing to get married, during my marriage, during a stage of my marriage when I was trying to decide on next steps and whether I needed to end it. I sought counseling during grief after losing my partner, O, and then less than a year later after losing my beloved father. But even before grief, I was already the responsible parent to my children. And as I grew into teens and young adults, new layers of parenting emerged. Decisions, boundaries, support, pressure. These are seasons of parenting that require strength and seasons that require processing. And I needed support to navigate those moments without breaking. The stress of work layered on top of it, the responsibility, the expectations, the constant being the one. Different seasons, different weights, same commitment to not carrying it alone. And after the panel, I felt compelled to speak to some of the young women individually because their energy was clear. They are carrying things alone. And one student in particular felt like she needed a village. She's trying to support her extended family, trying to achieve her goals, and trying to be strong. And she's drowning quietly. She wasn't weak, she was overwhelmed. And sometimes high achieving women don't need more strength, they need support. And I wanted her to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that strength does not mean silent suffering, that being responsible does not mean being alone. And as I reflected later in that quiet hotel room, I realized something else. Protection isn't only physical, it's emotional. And sometimes the most powerful form of protection is asking for help. Um, while I was still in Philadelphia and Camden, news broke out about the violence in Puerto Vallarta, where a cartel leader had been killed. And in that moment, I froze because I've been there. In fact, on my one of my first solo trips to Puerto Vallarta, I was adventurous. I went off the resort, I did excursions, I explored. So when I heard the news about what was happening, I felt shock. And then I felt gratitude because what if my timing had been different? What if I had been there during unrest instead of peace? And then I thought about Cancun just a couple of weeks ago when I made a spontaneous decision to leave. And again, timing. The same way I was stuck in Philadelphia because of snow, I had once been covered in Puerto Vallarta by timing. There are things we are spared from that we will never fully understand. There are dangers you never see. There are redirects that feel random. There are delays that feel inconvenient. But what if some of them are protection? While I was navigating snow and cancellations, I had a friend preparing to travel to Mexico next week, and I immediately reached out. And I had like a series of questions. Are you aware of what's happening? Do you have travel insurance? Are you reconsidering your plans? Because once you recognize protection in your own life, you become more alert for others. And that realization layered onto everything else I had been reflecting on protection, responsibility, support, weight. It was all connected. And somewhere in the middle of all of that reflection, I started asking myself a different question, not about where I was traveling or what was happening in the world, but about what I'm carrying into my next season. I'm 48 years old, and in 6 months at the end of August, I will turn 49, my final year in my 40s. And this doesn't feel like fear, it feels like clarity. There are things I refuse to carry into 50. I refuse to carry the need to please others and manage their perspective of me. I refuse to overextend myself, especially when it's not reciprocated. I refuse to keep checking on everyone else while neglecting my own emotional needs. If the snowstorm taught me anything, if Puerto Vallarta taught me anything, if that student taught me anything, it's this. You don't have to carry everything. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to survive everything alone. 49 feels like refinement, not reinvention, refinement. What stays, what goes, what aligns, what drains. And when I zoom out, here's what I see. A leadership panel about weight, a snowstorm that forced stillness, children who reframed inconvenience as a gift, protection I didn't earn, just received, students carrying invisible burdens, a milestone birthday approaching. None of it feels random. It feels transitional. And transition rarely feels organized, but it is intentional. You are being shifted, protected, positioned, refined, even when it looks like delay. If you are in a season that feels unsettled, if delays are happening, if you are questioning what you're carrying, if you are sensing a shift but can't quite name it, maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're protected. Maybe you're positioned. Maybe you're becoming. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. I trust divine timing. I release what no longer aligns. I honor the season I am in. I am protected. I am positioned. I am becoming. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Light It Up. And as always, continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.ajinamuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.